husband always says, like, if you want to know someone, fight them. And like not physically fight them, but watch what happens when you're in a fight with them. Because you will see a lot of their attributes. If they're
Woo.
petty, if they're like, how they come at you, do they go for the jugular? Are they fair? Like you'll things will be revealed. So I feel like when you are having a disagreement with someone, can someone like step away and say, you know what? You see things differently. I respect that. Can they even hear it? Because some people can't. As soon as you start having a disagreement, some people are so defensive. Like they just shut down or they can't
I fight to.
carry it. Yeah, yeah.
It depends on
Did you not
how
hear
mad
about
I.
Mary J. Blige's husband? He came for stuff and he had no kids or anything with her.
Nah, he had to though because the whole movement is crazy right now. So he had to stand up. He had to fight back. He
Oh,
had to fight
brother.
back for us.
The He Too movement.
Yeah, it's a he too.
No, but yeah.
So I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Don't fight me, cause I fight to kill.
Oh, so
So
let's dig deeper into that.
I will fight to kill, and that's why I don't fight because I
But why
know
do you
how.
feel like you fight to kill?
Because I'm not gonna fight anybody that I unless I deem you as an enemy. So I will go into the 10th power of trying to talk this out.
This is a little Aquarius, you guys.
When
Be
I go to
quiet
the
with it.
when I go to the 10th power to talk this out and you still didn't take all other, different avenues, it's like, okay, so you really want the smoke. You want the smoke? Here's the smoke.
You go extreme, huh?
I mean, it depends on what deem
You
extreme.
said to the 10th. I mean, that's pretty extreme.
It's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
I'm saying? I ain't gonna lie, it's pretty extreme. But my thing is because I don't, I do very, very well at communicating, right? I'm not, you don't have to guess. I will tell you exactly what it is. And I'm actually too good at communicating because nobody even knows how to accept communication, right? So
No one?
not nobody, but
I'm just asking to
you get what
follow
I mean?
up.
I'm talking about no one in my life. So like when I start speaking about things, it's like, okay, it can come off as harsh, but I've learned over the years my delivery could make
Oh,
something.
I like that you said that. So you had some self awareness
Oh yeah, a
that
lot.
I'm a good communicator, but I may need to temper the way I communicate, even though I'm a good communicator. That's good
Yeah.
awareness.
Well,
That's
that's why that's how I became a great communicator,
okay.
right? Because before it was like you don't have to guess, I would just speak,
Hmm.
right? And I know that most people are never given the truth as raw as it is in their life.
But okay, I'm gonna challenge you a little bit.
Yes, ma'am.
So when there's conflict, I think sometimes there could be two dynamics happening in a relationship. One person is like they're going to come in, they want to solve the problem. Let's talk about it, let's get through it. I'm communicating what I need. Okay, we're good. Then the other person's like I'm not ready for it or I need to process it. I need to like reflect on it. Can we table this for a minute? And that could feel uncomfortable for a person that's used to like solving through it. So I think you can have different dynamics that create what you think you're having good communication, but you have to understand your partner. So I had to learn this because I'm the person that's like, come on, let's talk about it. I want to solve through it. My husband, he's more like a processor. And so sometimes he would come back to me later and be like, yeah, I heard what you said about this and I want to try to do this differently. And I would think sometimes he wasn't listening because in that moment of us having the disagreement, he wasn't telling me information or he would be like, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
But I had to learn, like, oh, you know what? He needs time to process it. I don't need to give him 20 issues at once. I need to focus on like one issue. I need to tell him how I feel in a better way. I was very direct like you, so I understand exactly what you're saying. I'm like, I need to talk about the emotional effect and how this is going to help our relationship as a whole more so. Because when you come at it like I'm in it to win it, or if you come in it like my way is the right way,
Not it's
it,
not
it just it
it's
doesn't
not
end
but I
well.
think that communication when you're communicating with a partner, you need to be able to speak clearly about whatever it is that you're feeling
Absolutely.
and also provide some type of solution,
Yes.
right? I think a lot of people will come
But
in.
sometimes, can I challenge that a little bit? So sometimes it depends. Like, and you know this, you have kids. So I learned this too. Like my teenager, like she would say to me, like, I would say, yeah, what you should do this, and this. She'd tell me her problem, and I'd be like, okay, let's figure this out. And then one day she said, I just want you to listen. I don't need you to solve through this. And so each time I would talk to her after that, I would be like, is this you venting? Do you want us to problem solve through this? So I think it's not just communicating and giving a solution, but like really communicating and saying like, okay, what do you need in this moment? Because sometimes the person doesn't want, they may
Yeah.
know the answer, but they just may want to talk it through with you.
No. I understand what you're saying. I'm not speaking in that context.
Okay.
I'm speaking from a me to them, not a them to me.
Okay.
Right. So, because communicating and listening, I guess listening is a form of communication. But in this exact, I guess example, there has to be a doer and there has to be a receiver.
Don't you think like too like listening is not just like listening, it's actually like an action. So it's like sometimes we may think like you know how you're in that moment with someone and you're ticked off and you just bleh, you just because it's been building in you and then that person bleh, back to you and it's like you're trying to clean up this whole mess but you can't like really clean it up. So sometimes in communication it is one way. It is you just listening to someone without always going to a solution. But I'm not saying you can't or you shouldn't have a solution, but it just
Yeah.
depends on your audience.
But like my thing is this: I'm not a build up person. You're never gonna get something built up out of me, because the only way it gets built up is if it's been repeated.
Mhm.
I'm not that type of person. You can bump me and then, I just hold it in and then you bump me 17 more times and then you get all 18 of those bumps.
Yeah,
I've
you
never
let
been
you
that
let things
person.
out immediately. It
Yeah.
sounds like
Yeah, because
in
I
the
I don't have
moment
I don't have the capacity to
to
hold
hold
on
all
to
that
little
in,
things,
which
right?
is healthy. But some people they don't have the capacity on the other side to always like give to say, hey, I feel this way. Like
Oh
it may
yeah,
take
yeah,
them
yeah.
a like insurmountable amount of courage to be like, man, you really hurt my feelings the other day when you did this, and this, and you can hear them their voice shaking or the nervousness. So all I'm saying is you have to give consideration to both parties.
Yeah, of course, but that's not the solution. Here's the solution, right?
And he will be talking to me later about this.
Here's the solution. Well, like for me, and like what I had to learn to do was I will write things down, right?
Hmm.
Because I don't, first and foremost, where I'm going in my life and everything that I've acquired and accomplished in my life, I don't have time to deviate off of this road to be upset about something that I find minuscule. But at the same time, I can't afford for this minuscule thing to
To
persist
build up,
and
yeah.
build up, right? So I will write something down, and the way that I will approach it is like, depends on the person. I've never really had a toxic relationship. I've never had a relationship where I fought all the time.
Mm.
Besides really one, and that was because Instagram was new. You know what I'm saying? We were 21, 22 years old. Instagram is new and I want to show my abs and she's like, "Why do you want to show your abs?" We're like kids. That doesn't even really count. But like outside of that, I don't all right, whatever, it counts.
It's part of your relationship history.
All right, so we'll chalk that one up. It's my car
Right.
facts, yeah.
Sure, one accident.
Yeah, that's my one accident. And it wasn't even my fault. I wasn't at fault. But outside of that, because I don't do well, like I know, like again, growing up how I grew up, it was nothing but toxic. So
Mm.
I'm an analyzer and I'm patient when it comes to, you know, fixing a problem because I know I look at problems like knots, right? And there's like you think it's just one string, but there's a reason why this whole thing exists.
Mhm.
So when you actually look at it as a knot, you start to peel it out little by little, and then you can actually untangle it so it could be flush. So that's how I always looked at it. So I'm patient with the problem. But now when the person is not being receptive, which at times it was my fault because of my delivery, right? Because I'd be like, to me, it's simple, but to them, it's like a Rubik's Cube.
Mhm.
And that's when I realized that those people and I are just not the same level, and we just need to
I mean, there's
separate.
that too, and
But
that's well. I mean, there's that too. Like, I like that you said, you are like you want to lean in, you want to communicate because you have awareness that what you saw maybe growing up, you don't want to repeat that. It sounds like you've consciously made that decision. But some people grow up in situations and that's all they know. So when you're
yeah,
getting someone, you're getting all of their history, all of their cargo, all of their baggage. Get it? Relationship. You're on the ship
yeah,
together,
yep.
and you're like, so the way you might deal with it, it might be very healthy, way of like, hey, let's talk about it. But you could be with someone else. I'm just saying, be aware that you're like, why are they shutting down? And there could be a reason. And I think it's important to like explore that, like
Do
how
you
people
have an
deal with things.
index finger? All right, repeat after. I mean, do this. Let's practice this exercise.
This don't sound good.
Raise your index finger of either hand, and then raise the middle finger of the same hand. That's what you get. Do it again.
So you're saying the two?
Deuces. like,
Deuces.
that's what I don't have time for that no anymore. Like,
Look, you can. I mean, this is the thing. That's the beauty to me. That's the beauty of dating. That people are in such a rush. Like, I got to get with this person. I got to find this person. Dating is a beautiful thing. There's
yeah,
no commitment in the early phases until you guys decide to have commitment. So you really truly are discovering this person, and this is a great time to just sit back and observe. Don't give all the answers to the test away. Like, how do they communicate? How do they deal with conflict? Now, if you decide, okay, you know what, maybe there's just gaps because of things they experience, but I really like this person. Okay, jump in and say, hey, let's talk about this. But just sit back because people will always show you and tell you who they are.
yeah. But some of them will do it 5 years later.
Some people are good, but people I don't think can play that game more than a year,
You
honestly.
don't think so?
No.
Yo, I know.
I think there's always signs. When I talk to people who break up with people or who divorce people, they always can go back to the moment where they were like, I felt something in my gut
That's-
at this point, but I ignored it. I think it's us. Sometimes we just push it away, but we know. And then it kind of keeps recurring. And we're like, yeah, I know this isn't the right thing, but you just keep going down and down that road into something so toxic happens. You're like, I can't ignore this anymore.
That's your breaking point. Your fed up moment.
Yep. Yes.
There is a woman who went online to say that women who move to areas, rich areas such as Dubai, looking for men that have money, are not emotionally intimate, and they won't be. They're just stimulated on financial stability. So when a man with money wants love from a woman who's just craving financial stability, he's never going to get that emotional intimacy that he's feeling for.
Mm,
So like you're having a imbalance of people just living together,
yeah.
and they're just living to cover.
And then once you're with someone, and we don't talk about that
Yeah.
like this, there's an exchange of energy.
Yep.
Like, so sometimes people are like, why do I feel crazy? Because you're dealing with crazy. So that crazy's in you too, because you're having sex with this person,
Yeah.
you're intimate with them. Because you're right. My friend lives in Miami. He said it's like a competition there of women trying to get these guys with money. And it's just like a game. And they're constantly gaming these guys. And it is sad because these guys I think what happens with guys is guys are so physically drawn to women that it becomes like a blinder for them. So they overlook things and they don't see things until they're deep in that relationship or have children with that person.
Oh, yeah.
But guys need to go deeper. Guys, don't you think? I mean, I feel like guys need to go deeper, even though, because I'll hear guys say this all the time. It drives me crazy. That's my preference. Well,
Wait, who's the, wait, what?
the physical part, like the looks.
Well, I think what's happening is that I think, in my opinion, when you have this imbalance of just people and their own desires and really just realistically the ignorance of their own needs, right? You have this guy who will want a beautiful woman, but we are physical seeing
Get
creatures
that.
first,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But there's two sides to this coin. This woman knows what she needs to do to get to this man who has this X amount of money. So she needs what representative she needs to play, right? So when you're playing a game, you're still gaming somebody.
Mhm.
You're still leading them astray.
Mhm.
You're still going to lead them to emptiness. And you're going to give them a false reality of this filled void that's only going to grow bigger and probably end up on a podcast hating women. And then we
Talking
get
about someone we know.
then we get mad at the guy, but the guy didn't break his heart.
But this is the thing I
You know
will.
what I'm saying?
This
He
is the
didn't break
thing
his
I
heart.
would argue. So there's like 5 dimensions that I talk about: physical maturity, emotional maturity, sexual maturity, financial, and spiritual. So if a guy is just like, oh, she's beautiful, and he stops there, he hasn't physically matured. He's still living in the body of an 18-year-old or 20-something-year-old because it's like we all know as you are in a relationship with someone, you're going to get older. Things can happen. Right, beauty fades. And I always say to people, can you love this person right where they are, but like who they are? So they always say men marry hoping the woman doesn't change, women marry hoping the man does change. But the reality is like you're just looking at one component. Now a mature man is like, okay, she's beautiful, but what's her backstory? They're gonna go deeper. So I don't think it's just on the woman that's like beautiful to showing up and she's like breaking this guy's heart. I think it's on the man too to develop in other areas so he doesn't keep having that experience.
I think it goes. And
I mean,
here's the thing.
we have plenty of examples of guys we see and hear, and they get the baddest chicks, and they still leave those chicks. So it's like, so they looked at that one component. They had kids, and they were like, and they saw other things, but they were like, well, maybe she won't be
No,
this way.
we gotta stop. First of all, we're not gonna downplay a woman's ability.
No,
That's
we're
what
not. We're not downplaying a woman's
because
ability. What I'm saying,
hear me
I know
out,
where you're going with this.
hear
But
me out.
go,
So
go on, go
let me
on.
finish.
I
Let
have
me
a feeling, but
finish.
go ahead.
So like the thing is, and this is just my opinion, right? There are women, and I say this all the time, right? A woman who have slept with a lot of men or been with a lot of men can please a man more sooner and faster than a woman who is inexperienced with men. The same way a player, a guy who is a player, he's been with a lot of women, can please a woman and know a woman and get a woman to do what he wants her to do more sooner than a guy who doesn't have that experience.
And I would say when you meet that person, you better run.
But the thing
Or
is,
pause before you sleep. You pause because this is the thing. We're going back to the dimensions. That's limited. That's limited sexual maturity. That's limited physical maturity. Because you're saying to me pretty much like, dang, she could please me. Okay, game over.
no, I'm
I'm
not.
gonna surrender. Well, people do it every day, right? I'm gonna surrender everything to this person, and then your life turns into a mess, and you're like, why is my life a mess? Because you haven't matured enough to say, okay, she's good, but like, let me slow this down for a minute and let me look at the other dynamics of this person. But I agree with you. Yes, there are people that have the ability to
Don't
connect.
try to align with me right now.
I'm aligning
No,
with you
because you
I
didn't
understand
even
where
let
you're
me
coming from.
finish what I was
Okay,
saying.
go ahead and finish.
Because you went left.
Okay, go ahead. Go
The-
back.
the-
Take me right.
Right. So now what happens is when you have the ability, right,
Mhm.
to know somebody, you can feed them every single aspect spiritually.
I
You can
disagree with
feed
that.
listen,
But keep
game is
going.
game. You can feed them because if I know how to please a woman and I know what women like, I know what women crave, right? And if some women, you got to know how to do more than one thing. Some women they might just like you just because you're a cool guy and you might just look or dress nice and smell good. Some women gonna say, "Hey, I need you to, please my mind." So you know what he does? He brings out a couple books that he's been studying, and that he can actually align with you intellectually and now physically. So now he's at 2 out of your 5, right? And don't let him have a spiritual background because if he knows a lot about religion and or spirituality in itself, he can literally stimulate a woman in those 3 phases. And most women and most men too, because a woman can do the same to a man. When you have that ability to be able to be versatile amongst those areas, those are the ones that are realistically the heartbreakers. The heartbreakers aren't the one who just got you because she looked good. Because 9 times out of 10, you had 5 other dudes that told you that she wasn't for you, right? I'm speaking from a guy to a girl. And 9 times out of 10, the girl had 5 girlfriends that said that guy wasn't for you. So she has to double back and he has to double back and say that y'all were right. The real heartbreakers are when no one saw it coming. The real heartbreakers are when we all
Which is
thought.
why I tell people take your time.
Yeah.
See that person in all seasons. Time is a revealer of things. And I hear what you're saying, but like when I talk to my clients who get gat on certain things that you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about, the thing they will say is like, you know what? They can't really like intellectually stimulate me, or I don't feel emotional connection to them. So yeah, they might be good at faking it for a minute. I mean, because there are true players out there. There are people out there. They have game. I mean,
Out
they
here, you come to a tri-state, it's a
all I'm
crazy
gonna say
world.
both places. No, I know.
Girls are players too. Exactly. See what I'm
I'm
saying?
from Chicago. I'm not. Yeah,
Yo, yeah.
I get it.
No, but my thing is, all I'm saying is that the game has changed. It has elevated.
Hmm.
And when I say that in a sense where people are now have the ability to realistically come off as if they can cover, almost every single aspect. Now, granted, yeah, you're right. With time will
You
show,
gotta
time
put the
will
time
tell.
in. I think people try to erode the time. I think like
Yeah.
online dating, it's good that you can now meet more people, but it's bad because it's like going to, and the women in the room will understand this. It's like going to the nail shop and you have 100 colors. You're like, I have 100 colors, and even when you choose that one, you're not happy because you're like, maybe I should have chose that other color. And I think online dating is like that, where it's like I have all these options, but really, what people have found out is like it's kind of the same people on other apps, right? On
Hmm.
the so it's not about quantity, it's about quality, and I think to get quality, it takes time.
I
Anything
agree.
you're diligent, like you built up things in your life. I could tell you're a hard worker. It took you
Thanks.
time. It took you time to get there. And I just wish people would put that same time into a relationship because I think they would sometimes see when something's not right. And I think we have like something in our brain. I go back to your intuition and your heart. Your heart is more emotional, of course, but your intuition usually it will be like something is not right, but we just don't lean into that
Yeah.
sometimes. But I do think with time you start to see things, but a lot of times we're eroding that time because we're like, I just gotta like get with this and figure, we'll figure the rest out later.
And you got like, so there was just a I forgot who it said. I forgot which girl said, but she said, oh, Glorilla. She went on somewhere and said that women should just play in their 20s, their
Mm.
entire 20s. Yeah, realistically, women should be toxic in their entire 20s. But now here's
Well,
the
I'm here to
problem.
say don't waste time doing that.
Yeah,
Like that's a
right?
waste of your time and your body and your energy. Like you don't I feel like why we have enough examples of what doesn't work.
Mm.
And I always joke like Cardi B likes going home and being married to her husband. Now, even though they have stuff going on in their
Yeah.
relationship, she's a former stripper, right? She's a rapper, she's a businesswoman, but she still likes the structure of a relationship. Don't
Yeah.
be fooled. Like Cardi B has access to a lot of people. She could probably have a lot of people. Like she said when she got accused of cheating, she said, it would be out there because I can have who I want. But she still wants that consistent person. That says a lot about are we desiring things that we think are, things we need versus like when you look at the reality of the situation, when we get that, we're like, oh, I still want this one thing. I always think that's interesting when people are at the top of their game and they're still like, I want to be married. I want to have a family. Like they're still trying to create this unit and they can have access to anything. So
Well, I mean, there's something. Well, we know that, and I say this all the time. One of the three, they say this at like fifth grade level science. One of the three essential needs for every human being is love
mhm.
and or
An
affection.
emotional connection, like that's what
Yeah,
you're talking about. That's why you have the rich guy that's like, okay, I've given her everything. She's here. She's played this game, but as you can't fake emotional connection.
yeah.
And they
Yeah.
still want that. I think that's pretty interesting. Like it's a human need.
You know what I'm thinking is going on is that right now it's a free for all for for the youngins. We'll say the youth, right? So you got the women who want to do what they want, all right, and then you got the men who want to just do what they want with the women that want to do what they want. That makes sense, right? Those men aren't establishing any financial stability. They're not establishing any real fundamentals or foundation for their future to lead up, and they're just outside having fun. And I think that like fun is all good until it's when you look back and you realize it was detrimental.
Yeah.
And then that's when we get to the people who are now, and the product of that are looking at things like, I don't have time to really figure you out.
Hmm.
I don't have a year or two to really invest into you and see you. Even though you might be 28, I've known you since you were 26. I think I've known you for 28 years. You don't.
Hmm.
And it's going to take probably the same amount of time as that person did growing to that 28-year-old for you to actually know that 28-year-old. And really by that time he's 56, right? but
That's true.
but the problem is like we're all not investing time in the right space. I said this before here that dating needs to be intentional.
Hmm.
It cannot be for fun. And look, I'm a guy who had a lot of fun. You know what I'm saying? I had a lot of fun in my life. I'm not like Wilt, but I had a lot of fun.
And you're not Will Chamberlain is
Yeah.
3,000 plus women.
but what I do know
Seriously.
is that like some things that I kind of spoke into existence happened without me even thinking that it would happen. It just happened. But I said it for so often that I wanted to have a kid at 27. I did, right?
Hmm.
When it happened, I didn't really want it to happen right then and there, but it did. But at the same time, all that being said, even in my relationship with my girl now, who's the mother of my child, we didn't spend enough time together at first, which caused a lot of friction.
On the back end.
Yeah, on the
Well,
back end,
you
because
could
we
think
just had fun.
right. You either can invest on the front end of your
Or you
relationship or on
go
the back
or pay
end,
for if you rest on the
but
front
you're
end.
still gonna deal with stuff. So it's like, why not just put that stuff up front?
Yeah.
I was reading like people are doing these. Of course, engineers came up with this date me docs. So they're doing like these 1,000 word, 1 page resume of what I want, what they want in a partner, who I am. But they're being very authentic because they have like online dating fatigue. And what I thought was interesting is like they're desiring someone to connect with them for who they are. And they're putting like details in there. Like, I'm geographically agnostic. You know, if you live here and I live here, I don't care. Let's connect. Like they're like, I want to have a traditional marriage or I want to have this kind of marriage. Like people are putting it out there. And I'm like, what if we dated, like that? Like it would make it so much easier. What if you were just like, hey, it's theory and practice, but I mean, what if someone just said, "Look, I can't be serious." What if they were Wilt Chamberlain? They're like, "Look, I slept with a lot of women, and you're not gonna change. It's still gonna be women that are gonna sleep with them because they're gonna be like, I could change them, but okay, that's your decision. You walked into that. But what if people could just be direct and say, like, "Hey, this is what I want." I think it would just change the whole dating landscape because I just think hurt people keep hurting people, and then it creates this cycle. And there's people that start off good.
I think that we got to get out of the, this is who or what I want, and start saying like, this is what I am,
Mm.
and this is who I am. Because like, what I want will change, and what you want may change,
You're gonna
right?
evolve, yeah.
Yeah. So like, there's people who had monogamous relationships, somewhere down the line become swingers,
Hmm.
and so on and so forth. But if I say, hey, I'm a person who is, um, I love road trips. I'm just saying, I love to be out. I love to travel. I love to drive. I love sports. I sit down every single Sunday and watch every single football game. That is not going to change.
Right.
Or you had a guy who said, I love video games. There's some women who hate men that play video games, right?
Mhm.
But like they got it. We have to start being more like, we have to start from the inside and then go out.
Yeah, and you gotta let people be who they are. There's peace in that. There's a saying that a man goes where he finds peace, and I think it's true. Like, and women too. I think we look for peace, but I think the best relationships are people that are just like that's who they are. Like they're not trying to shape them or change them. They know that's what they signed up for. Like I said, I think people get mad when they're in relationships for things they didn't sign up for. Go ahead, you go.
I was gonna say first and foremost, I don't believe men and women coexisted at peace ever in humanity. For real. Like, and I had to
I
literally.
think they did, but I think
There was always
well,
beef.
well,
Like there was
well,
always beef with
I
men and
feel like
women. They're like, and now we think that it's supposed to be just the icing on the cake.
no,
Nah, we've been battling for
I
power
think like I
forever.
mean I'm a spiritual person. I think God did intend it for it to be peaceful, but I think we kind of messed that up. And I think since then, yes, it's never been right. Because like even thinking about the story with Abraham and Sarah, she was like, "Okay, I know you want this kid. Go ahead and get with this, I'm gonna give you a concubine." That did not end well. That was the most like friction situation between her and her husband, that kid. That kid felt it. If you read about, he felt, he knew his dad loved him, but he felt rejected by her. So that was the beginning of people opening, if you think about it from a biblical perspective,
Yeah.
people opening up their relationships, and then it was messy. And we've been in that mess ever since then. I mean, what's different from people swinging or saying, okay, I know this is going to satisfy you for a moment, go do this. But then when it blows up, people are like, uh, I didn't think it would go this far. I think it is biblical. Like I think you're right that the lack of peace is there for things that have happened
They had
spiritually.
there was a study that was done, and they said that was, well, because it's about ancient civilizations.
Mm-hmm.
All civilizations that had what is it called, sexual liberation,
Mm-hmm.
failed. Every one of them,
Mm-hmm.
they all failed. And if you look at it, every one of those civilizations don't exist today, right? So now when we have
Because
this,
you don't have the family.
yeah, you don't have the
Which is
family.
what's happening. That's what
Mhm.
when you see like all the to me unrest and the difficulties and how people think about things, it's the disconnect of the family unit. A lot of it ties to the family because the family does give you structure. It does give you access to more resources. It like if one falls down, you have the other. It helps you have a support system. But you said something earlier, and it made me think. Like I think a lot of people are married living single, or in relationships trying to live single, and the two can't coexist. You need people to be in a partnership. You can't be on this like island by yourself and be like, okay, I need you for this. That creates an emotional disconnection. And that might be what you're hearing from the guy where he's like, well, I'm giving her stuff, but she's emotionally disconnected. But then he's like really not there for her emotionally. So how can she like show that for him? So there's a lot of that happening today too.
Did you ever go to the casino, or do you gamble, or have you
I've been
gambled?
in a casino, but I'm not a big gambler.
Have you ever played roulette?
I've seen it, but yeah, I
Okay.
haven't played it.
So I was a roulette player, right?
Mm.
And there was a rule. And the rule was never look at the other table. Because the other table is always rolling the numbers that you're playing until you get there. And once you get there, out of nowhere, here comes
need
a
like a
double
book.
zero.
You need like a book of analogies.
Yo, like, because for real, like that's what I think life is. Life is just we always at our table, right?
But looking at the other side.
And we're looking at the other table because at one point our table was rolling our numbers and we were making money.
You're like, but maybe this table might be better for me. I might have better luck.
And I done seen 22, 24, 17. I'm like, damn, all my numbers are over here. Then you go to that other table.
And you're like, wait, this table's messed up in a way too.
And here comes a 4.
Right.
You're like, and then but the thing is, and you know what happens? Like, see, people who gamble, they're gonna understand this too. They're gonna really align. The worst part about it is when you're a roulette player and you're watching the other table celebrate because everybody's winning. Everybody's yelling.
You're just catching them in a winning moment.
Exactly, but you know what you want to do? Be a part of it.
Part of it.
So then you go do what they say, which is what everybody's doing right now. They're just doing what other people are saying. They're going to that winning table, and then they get there, and out of nowhere, they forget that table can lose too.
Yep.
And now they all lost together, except for the people who quit early. And that's relationships and gambling 101. But thank you, Elizabeth. You were great. One more time, can you tell the audience what you have coming up, where they can find you?
So I am finishing up my second book. It's called Love Can Be Messy, but You Don't Have to Be. Because I do think that love is beautiful, but I think it could be messy at times too. So I'm going to give people some real tips, whether you're single or in a relationship, as ways to kind of work towards having that healthy relationship. And again, if people want to check me out, they can go to my website at elizabethoverstreet.com. But I had a lot of fun talking to you guys.
Thank you for definitely coming in here with some great insightful words. Also, question, do you have a release date on your second book?
So I don't yet, but when I do, I'll definitely let you guys know.
Okay, perfect.
Love your opinion on it.
Yeah, I would definitely read it.
Maybe I should have waited to have you be a part of it so we could put the roulette example in there.
Yeah, we're going to... You know what? Don't worry. Put that in the third one. I got you. But everybody, thank you for liking and subscribing. Keep on keeping on. We need all the support and the love to keep this going. It's been great. We'll see you next time at 8 at the table.